This documentary is about finding freedom and discovery of truth, but I also think it's about making the next generation better.
And peace has a sense of serenity to me. Truth takes a lot of, I fight the truth, and for right now, her word is sit back and have some peace.
Welcome to Come Back with Erica Cobb. We are wrapping up the 6-part documentary of Harry and Meghan on Netflix, recapping episode 6 with my co-host from Daily Blast Live, Tory Shulman.
Ahoy, hoy.
Ooh, this is the home stretch, girl.
This is a good one.
It's the home stretch, and they start out March 14th, 2020, which I believe was also the last day that we were in studio.
Yeah, it was just like COVID.
Yes, on what they deemed the Freedom Flight, leaving Canada, headed to Los Angeles. So they start off with, thanks to another amazing friend whom we've never met.
This blew my mind,
but
Erica.
who believes in us and wants to help. And in walks Tyler Perry. First of all, I was so mad that I had been watching social media at all that day because I would have been far more blown away.
Oh, see, I had known.
See, I
had no idea.
We knew that they were staying at Tyler Perry's house.
But I didn't see I was shocked by it.
Where it was going to go.
Yeah.
So Tyler said he saw something about her father and found it hurtful because if it were his father, he would have been hurt. So he immediately empathized with Meghan and he wrote her a letter.
A letter. Like with a quill. I don't know if it was with a quill.
I doubt it was.
I don't think it was, but it was like that kind of heartfelt kind of thing.
And he sent it before the wedding saying he was praying for her and if she needed anything that he would be there for her.
That's right.
And what a connection to make when you have been through something in order to empathize with someone who doesn't even know what's coming.
And doesn't even know you.
Right.
Again, I couldn't get over that. He just felt a connection to her through the abuse of his mother and what went on in his mind. And he said, I reached out. Don't underestimate the power of a note.
Yeah. It is true.
Just don't.
It is true. But also, isn't that interesting? We talk about how paper is forever and it can actually come back to haunt you. And this was a situation where paper being
Saved her.
forever absolutely saved her.
Beautifully said.
So she calls him years later when they are in the midst of a storm and tells him everything, and he validated her feelings.
Okay, this is what he said. I don't know why I want to cry here, but he said, they just wanted to be free. They wanted to be free to love and be happy, and I applauded that. I don't know why that made me feel so emotional, but as soon as he saw they just wanted to be free, from his lens to her lens and Harry's lens, it's all different lenses. Freedom is the goal for everybody.
Yeah.
Like it's just for during Seder and Passover, we talk about enslaved people, and it doesn't matter if it's the Jews or the blacks. You just want to be free. And the doors opened. The doors opened. I thought that was lovely. I fell in love with Tyler Perry.
I mean, I don't know how anybody hates on Tyler Perry, but it just shows you that people can find a way to hate on anybody.
It's true, but what a kind thing to do.
Yes.
So generous.
Well, also, you're looking at it through a situation where who can truly understand a plight like that, especially at that level of fame and success?
The stakes were so high.
Exactly.
That's right.
So he's basically saying, he basically invited Meghan into that fold to be like, we will help protect you, my sister, is how I felt.
Absolutely. And in Judaism, if you didn't know, at Passover, we leave a door open, literally the front door open, so that anyone is allowed to come in and feast with us. It was like that. I don't know you. You're a stranger. Come on over.
And you said something about his mother and him being able to empathize with Meghan through that lens because he likens the abuse of Meghan and Harry to battered women like his mother.
Well thought out argument. Explain that a little bit.
Well, because it's the abuse, then it's the gaslighting of the abuse.
That's right.
It's the not validating the feelings of the person who is subjected to said abuse.
Yeah.
And I really thought that was so spectacularly correlated in so many ways because, one, unfortunately, a lot of people can empathize with that idea. They can empathize with that situation. And I think there's, again, this documentarian.
Liz Garbus?
Yeah,
I
did
can't get over her.
Such a great
everything she's
job
done.
of putting all of these things together to really paint the totality of the picture of exactly what they were going through. And Tyler opens his LA home to Harry and Meghan. They fly out with Mama Doria and
The
Archie
dogs.
and the dogs. And it
On
was
his
like
plane. Like he went
yeah.
and got them.
Yes.
He rescued them. Think about that. The prince that rescues them. This is Tyler Perry rescuing the prince.
It's so awesome.
Yeah, it really was lovely to see.
So awesome. And also, I also had to laugh at this because we talked about their like little cottage and
Yeah, right.
you know, and they end up like
Dude.
this is how y'all, I'm telling you in my greatest testimony, this is how the universe, God, whatever higher
Karma.
call, like whatever you believe in, has your back, because there is a passage in the Bible that says he prepareth a table before thee in the presence of thine enemy.
Wow.
And anytime, especially when you are living in your truth, you are doing things in a way that you are trying to honor yourself and others, and you are getting blowback, you are getting adversaries, you are getting demolished, your spirit is being demolished. You just have to keep the faith that you will have a feast. You will have something greater than anything you could ever imagine prepared for you, and it will happen in the face and presence of your enemies. I just gotta let you know. Just gotta let you know. Y'all like this fireplace,
it's
right?
good.
Y'all like this fireplace?
That's good.
Presence of my enemies, okay?
That was so good.
I'm just being an ass.
No, that was very good.
So Tyler Perry said that he's been living and had this home for years. And it's also like, it's a palatial estate.
Huge,
it's
acres.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And he lives amongst other very affluent people,
Right.
very popular
Celebrities.
and famous people. And what ends up happening after 6 weeks of peace and serenity, I was like, thank God they got at least 6 weeks.
I know.
When's the last time they had 6 weeks?
I know.
They've never had 6 weeks.
I don't think they've ever had it.
Yeah.
They had it?
So he ends up, he says that the amount of people, the amount of the helicopters, the paparazzi in the bushes, all the things that they had to do in order to protect them from this feast, this media feast.
Yeah.
That he and no one in that situation had ever seen anything like that before. What does that tell you?
It's just on a different level. It's a royal level. I just don't think we can understand it. I just think people say, oh, it must be bad, but oh, they get pampered and all blah, blah, blah. I just think it's on a whole other level. Like the highest celebrities in the world couldn't handle it. Could not
had
handle
never
it.
experienced
Never
it.
seen it.
That I thought that really
It's a whole
told
other
you
level.
the gauge of
Yeah.
exactly what was happening there. So we learn amongst all of this that Meghan is still fighting the mail. She's taking on, like, she's working side by side with her attorneys, and the Mail doubles down on the invasion of privacy. And I thought that this was so interesting because I had never thought of it this way, that whether the Mail won or lost, they were still going to profit from them filing suit against them, because now the suit becomes the story.
Yeah, you get more papers sold. Yeah, that's the whole thing of a monster creating a monster, of eating the monster. And all she said was, if you gave me an apology and you said you were wrong, it would have been over.
Right.
It's so simple if you just done the right thing. But instead, we'll go to war.
And then they chose to try to further invade her
yeah.
privacy. What was that about?
By using the Friends thing, you mean?
By using the Friends interview at People magazine,
Yeah, right.
wanting details on her cell phone that
that was so
included
weird.
Archie,
Love.
William, Kate.
So if you didn't know, they wanted items that she had so they could look at it, and it's basically like discovery from each side. And she was so confused. Why do they need things from Archie? The Daily Mail had posted the letter before Archie was born. So why is that even part of it? And they're trying to slow you up. And when it was just, you saw her in the things, looking at pages after pages of legal documents. I had no idea she was fighting this along with the British media. I didn't know that the Daily Mail lawsuit took so much out of her.
Yeah.
I had no idea how involved she was until this documentary.
Well, we mentioned People magazine and the article that her friends wrote in order to support her.
Yeah, that came back.
And they wanted the friends to be named.
Yeah.
And she said, it was my duty to protect my friends the way that they had tried to protect me. But I was just thinking, as a friend, and you could see it in Abby's face, when she was one of the friends in the article mentioned the letter to her father.
In one statement.
And it opened up the gates to say that they weren't invading privacy because that was a matter of public record. So
Correct. And in Britain, they had an argument there. That's why I say it backfired, because they brought up the letter. And she says she wrote him a letter and blah, blah, blah. And then the British press said, the Daily Mail said, then it's not private if they're already talking about it. Again, the less you say is probably better for Meghan at this point. So unfortunately, that People magazine article just backfired.
And I hated that.
Yeah, I know. Because it was so...
I felt the anguish that her friends must have had.
Oh, they were demolished. It was terrible. Even Serena Williams.
It's like no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah.
In fact, I have this new statement that I'm making in 2023, so I'll just put this out there for everyone.
Everybody get your
if someone
drinks up.
asks me to do a good deed, I'm going to say, I'm so sorry, I can't, because it always comes back to punish me.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I'm really not going to live like that.
Terrible.
But it's amazing how that works. It's like you try to do something nice, you try to do the right thing, and then it gets turned around against you. It's like, okay, like, is there that? I'm just going to say it. It's the devil. The devil is hard at work, okay?
The devil's entering this podcast.
It's hard at work. My gosh. So we learned, unfortunately, that the first night of their stay in their new home in Montecito, that Meghan suffers a miscarriage.
In front of Abby. That was even more tough. Abigail Spencer, the actress, was there, and she said, I don't feel good. I'm having some cramps. And she puts Archie down, and she collapses to the ground. Whew.
And your heart just goes out, because it's already, for a lot of women, it's so difficult to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And then she is like trying to have her family, and she's trying to create life, and she's being met with, obstacles and resistance at every single turn. And the toll, the mental, the physical, the emotional toll that must have taken on her as a woman, or a person in general, but as a pregnant woman.
I know.
Like, it's just too much for anyone.
And I think anyone out there listening who knows someone or may have gone through their own miscarriage, that is so much more common than we think. Any amount of stress, you could be like, if your friend said, I was going through this, you'd be like, I totally understand. Imagine that times 1 trillion. Just times 1 trillion. And again, I know this is corny, but they tried to take her agency as a woman, and then she lost the baby.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking of, like, her power as a woman in the United States before all this must have just felt so diminished. You know what I mean? But so diminished. Even though it wasn't, it's just a lot of her power as a female, I felt, was all taken away at one. I felt really bad for her.
It was a hard thing to watch.
Yeah.
Because you really, whether you're a mother or not, whether you're a woman or not, whether you've experienced a miscarriage or not, you felt that.
Yeah. Just the loss.
I certainly felt that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, you're listening to Come Back with Erica Cobb. We are wrapping up on episode 6 of Harry and Meghan on Netflix.
We know them. They're M&H. We know them now.
M&H. Yes.
H&M.
So now we start to get into their life's work.
Yeah.
And they're taking on vaccine equity, female entrepreneurship, mental health coach summits, NAACP Image Awards, commencement speeches. It almost... Every trial and tribulation can either take you down or it can activate you. And it seems like they have been chosen to be the activated ones.
And also, where do we get to have them? Like, I always think about that. Like, America gets to have this amazing philanthropic, beautiful couple to help with the NAACP. And for England, you could have had them.
Yeah.
They said in that episode, we would have continued doing this the rest of our lives. We would kiss in the kitchen after an event and say we would have done this the rest of our lives, but they didn't let them. And what a missed opportunity. I can't get over that.
I know.
What a missed opportunity.
Because it's almost like you don't know what you have
You've cut off your
it's gone.
That's right. You've cut off the nose to spite the face.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And now we get it. I mean, we're very happy to have it. I'm just saying you could have had someone that looked like people from the Commonwealth represent and be glorious at it, graceful. And you didn't.
Well, we cut to very sweet moments at home with Archie. And then there is an announcement that is made on February 14th, 2021.
Your birthday!
My birthday. I'm a Valentine's baby, y'all. Yes,
lovely.
They made this announcement about the pregnancy with Lilibeth.
In a smart way, visually, I thought. Very touchy, very warm.
Yes. And then it was revealed to Harry that Princess Diana made her announcement about the pregnancy that she was carrying with Harry on February 14th.
I was like, are you kidding me? And he just said it was a total coincidence.
That's not a coincidence, Harry.
And then
That's
he said,
God.
or maybe not. Maybe it's not. It is.
It's the universe. It's whatever higher power you believe in.
Yeah.
Okay?
That was so
We're very
lovely.
inclusive here.
Very. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was really special, I thought. That was lovely.
Super. You are literally tearing up right now. I know.
I know. And I also just think about, like, I don't know, any connection you can have to a lost mother, you hold on to so strongly. So he must have just held on to that really strong.
That is, I mean, they've had so many, obviously, like so many disappointments. They've had so many setbacks. But it's like every time they just come, there's something that brings them back stronger. And that's truly inspiring. That's the reason why I wanted to do a recap, because I've never done a recap on this podcast before.
Right.
But I felt like this was such a powerful comeback story that it needed to be delved into. And I mean, this really, especially as we're wrapping up all 6 episodes and we're at the end of it, I felt like this was too important, because we're seeing a comeback story in action in real time. And I think there are so many nuggets of wisdom, or I like to call them comeback keys, that generally I'll have a testimony teacher or an expert or a celebrity come on and tell me their story. And this was a situation where this couple decided to open up their lives to tell their stories that are really happening in real time. And how special. And because I'm such a proponent and fan of comeback stories, I just really wanted to take the time to like give this more breath.
I agree. I think it needed to be honored, and it needed to be digested and dissected, because this will live on in history, not only in terms of the British monarchy and what it means to the British people, but I think also for the American public and globally, what it means to be a woman, married, a husband, a modern human. Those two are modern human beings. And they're a great example. And you can see life opening up for all of them. Again, I just remember at the very end of episode 6, they have a problem. And she says, let's go outside, get some air, and then we'll decide. And I said, if she can do that and they can handle that, I can do my own life.
And then when you do your own life, Oprah calls. You're listening to Come Back with Erica Cobb. We are talking about episode 6 of Harry and Meghan on Netflix. The recap with my girl, Tory Shulman. Okay, so Oprah calls.
Yeah.
And what we learned is it took a year. Can you imagine how busy you have to be? How many things have to be going on in your life to put Oprah on hold for a year?
Hold, please, Miss Winfrey. It's Oprah.
And she's their neighbor.
I know. They're in Montecito together. I'm like, do they hang out? Oh my God, I so want to know.
I'm
Go
like,
over
you
there.
couldn't get together with your neighbor. That's how much was going on in your life.
Dude.
You couldn't get together with your neighbor Oprah for a year.
But I also want to say before we start this conversation that like having an Oprah interview also isn't the easiest choice for them either. Like it's Oprah and we're laughing, but like going on Oprah as a royal was like, that was such an open curtain to things that were never open before.
Right.
So this was like a major big moment. And I
Yeah.
don't know if I continue. I don't know how I feel about it.
I think that was a decision that they had to make,
Then.
kind of like the 5 options that they were given, or Harry was given at the round table.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, make the decision to go on Oprah was their decision to say, all right, we can either be all in, half out.
Yeah, all out.
All out,
Right.
or somewhere in between that, like 2 and 3 zone.
Right. Here's the thing, and I want to ask you this question. Do you think the Oprah interview caused or asked more questions than it answered? And did it do them good, or did it make them seem... Let's just talk about that stupid thing that they brought up, and everyone's talking about it, where they're like, one person of the royal family said this about who's darker, the baby, or will
what
the baby
color-
be the color
what
will
color will the
Archie
baby
be,
be?
right?
Yeah.
And everyone has been talking about like, name the person. And I want to be clear that I went back and looked, and Harry says very clearly to Oprah, and again, I said in episode 1, he can go really icy. He said, I will never share that conversation. I never will. So we were never going to hear who that was. But do you think that caused a distraction? Or is that fair?
Excuse me.
She's all, I'm going to distract
I was
you.
like, you choked me up. I think that people who are saying that,
Yeah.
name the person.
Yeah.
I think they want to cause a distraction. I don't think the interview caused a distraction, because I think that what we have seen is a pattern of scapegoatism, and they want someone to be held accountable.
Oh, that's the way you play the game.
Right. They want a name so that we can say, well, this is they're the problem.
Get rid of them and we'll be
and
fine.
then they're extracted, which I do
see.
believe is the reason why Harry refuses to name the person, because the person is a product of a sick system. The person is sick, the person is racist, but they're a part of a greater organization. They're a part of a greater community, a greater infrastructure.
Sure.
So by extracting and scapegoating one person, it makes the entire institution get away with something.
So that's interesting. I never thought about that.
I'm sick of the name the person.
Because it's all over. That's all
Right.
over, right? Name the person. I'm like,
I think that it actually does less of a service to name the person. It's like you go to Thanksgiving dinner, and
I love Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, it is great.
It's delicious.
And your uncle Jake says something that is racist.
Right.
And you can say to Uncle Jake, one-on-one, interpersonally, like,
I'm not comfortable
yo,
with that.
that's
Unacceptable.
it's completely unacceptable. That is racist. You need to understand that's racist. You need to, now that you know better, you need to do better.
For sure.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand why that's not acceptable? Now, or you can go on to social media and say, my Uncle Jake so-and-so, who works at Allstate as the manager of blah, 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 said this at Thanksgiving dinner. Now, where did Uncle Jake get that from? Grandma Judy and Grandpa Tim? Like, does Aunt Susie feel that same way? Would she have said it? Was Uncle Jake just the person who actually said it within earshot of you? Or is it his issue, or is it an issue of the institution of your family? Is this racism embedded in your family? So at that point, is this a teachable moment? Is this a correction of the culture for which you were brought up in? Or is it more important to scapegoat Uncle Jake and let Aunt Judy and Grandpa Tom and
Susie, don't forget Susie.
and Grandma Susie
Don't forget Susie.
all off?
Wow.
So I'm like, is it important to know who said it? I'm not so sure it is important to know. And by continuing to demand out of everything, and I also feel like a lot of people who are saying, name the person, haven't seen an episode of this documentary. Because had they seen an episode or two or three, they would understand the deep-seated nature of everything that has happened that's come to someone saying to the first brown or black member of the royal family or to the husband of that woman, what color is the baby going to be? So it's the system that's sick. Yes, whoever said it is sick, but it's about fixing the system. So I think that people are really creating a distraction, and regardless of their intentions for that distraction, I think they need to be mindful about what they're saying and why, and also understand why I might feel differently about it, having not only delved into this entire documentary to understand what they're trying to do, because I think that their steps are very ordered. And I do think that a part of this documentary is about finding freedom and discovery of truth. But I also think it's about making the next generation better. That's just my 2 cents on that.
Dismissed.
I
never thought, and I'll end here, I never thought Harry would have known that would have been the distraction. That's playing chess while they're playing checkers. Very well said.
So, I mean, yeah, we can name the person.
But that itself would be the
does that
distraction. That itself would have been the distraction. Well, very well said.
But, you
I'm
know.
going to drink to that.
I mean, that's just how I feel.
Well, it was and this is how I feel. I need more wine.
Yeah. So, obviously, we know that the British press were activated, and it was all a reaction to the Oprah interview. And I thought it was interesting that they said the interview was eclipsed by the conversation surrounding race as opposed to what they believed it was going to be, which was a conversation about mental health.
Right. Excuse me. Right.
You're thinking?
I don't know. Sometimes they say they're surprised by something that I think they should have known before.
So, okay, explain.
In my mind, if I had that interview with Oprah, the major thing, which was silenced, remember that big moment, and also the color, there were moments that were highlighted, and that was one of them. And for them to not know that that was going to go far doesn't ring real to me. Does that make sense? Like, for her to be like, we thought it'd be about mental health. Clearly, who's the racist would be. Like, sometimes those jumps don't work for me.
Okay.
Am I wrong? Do you hear me?
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I
She's
understand.
International relations from Northwestern.
Okay.
Like,
okay. No, I understand why you feel that way. I feel very differently because I have experienced, there is something, like for instance, we're on the panel of Daily Blast Live, and I'm just casually telling a story or, you know, something about my past, and then all of a sudden I'll say something, and I'm just saying a story as I have probably said a million times before. And I'll get a reaction from one of you on the panel like, what? And then it makes me think like,
oh, this is a bigger deal or something.
oh, this is not normal.
Right.
Like, I might have been telling that story to get to a point that I never even got to because everyone is having a reaction about the way that I set up the story.
But I disagree only because they knew exactly where that story would end for them. The boundary was, we will not say who said it. So they knew that story would be a hook.
I don't agree.
Like Harry was like, I'm not
agree.
sharing with this. And they had talked about that previously. So to me, that was a story that they knew would be explosive. And then to me, they kind of a little bit tried to play it like they were confused or surprised by that being the story.
I don't think that Harry is that great of an actor.
No, I don't think they were acting. A couple of times it rang untrue that she wouldn't have seen what the response would have been, or he wouldn't have known that's the response.
Yeah.
When you say, how dark is my son going to be, or what color is my son going to be, clearly that's enormously egregious, heinous, and highlight of a headline. So to me, I have a hard time with her not getting that.
Well, I'm thinking because Harry said it. First of all, I want to be very clear. When I said I don't think Harry's that great of an actor, it's not that I think that Meghan Markle is that great of an actress in this role.
Fair,
like
fair,
in
fair.
this
No,
part
you
of,
had to say that.
Yeah,
very fair.
I think that first of all, you're talking about a biracial woman who we already know was never treated like a black woman until she got to the UK. So it's not like her lived experience was very intense, but it was very short lived experience in terms of like the span of her lifetime.
But who is she speaking to?
She's speaking to Oprah, but that doesn't change what her lived experience is. Now, Harry is someone who has said that he had a lot of unconscious bias and ignorance. So I don't think that the two are orchestrating in this deep-seated notion of like, we're going to float this and then act really surprised by the reaction.
A little bit.
I don't feel that way at all.
And I know what you mean because I don't want to, but I think they're too press savvy to not have known.
I don't feel that they are, because I don't feel that they had been given that type of opportunity to be.
That's fair. They had
before.
never had this American audience and this, right.
Or any audience.
To speak their mind.
Like,
this was the first.
It's the same reason why I don't feel that Meghan was like, I'm going to say this and it's going to go out. It'd be one thing if it was live TV in any one of those circumstances.
Right.
If she like intentionally was going to plant something, or he intentionally was going to plant something. But in one, the royals in the Africa documentary, we already know that this was sanctioned by the royals. So whatever that final product was going to be, you would have thought that it would have come off favorably to the royal family, and there wouldn't have been a question in that. In the Oprah interview, I mean, it took place clearly. What we saw was only a portion of how long the interview was and all the things that were said. So they were very intentional about what they took out. And I think also with Oprah, which is something that, you know, I've been interviewing for 20 years and I'll likely have to interview for another 40 years before I can even touch what an Oprah is able to do. So but I'm going to work on it because what she does, and I love this when a guest on my podcast says to me, I'm like, ooh, I might be just a little closer to getting to understanding how to do this, right? When they're like, I never thought I would say that. Like, where am I? I never thought that, why am I telling you this right now? And I think that there is a magic of a very skilled interviewer, and arguably Oprah is the best in the world at it, to get your guard to come down, to say things that you wouldn't normally say to anyone, to make you feel so comfortable, because she's very invested. She wants to know. She's a safe space.
There's nothing in me that believes that Harry and Meghan didn't tell each other exactly where they would go and where they would stop. Meaning, not for a second do I think that came off the cuff because Oprah's a good interviewer.
I think where they would go and where they would stop, yes. But in terms of like, this is what we're going to like plant, which is how I'm feeling about this conversation, no. I think maybe the conversation was had, we will not name names, but that could have applied to anything. I mean, out of a million horrendous things that were done to them.
Yeah, but that took on, I don't know. I hear you, and I understand, and we'll agree to disagree, but I think they're too savvy.
I also think that the reason why Meghan said that she believed it was going to be a mental health conversation, at this point, why lie about it? It's already over. Everything is blown up. So they're looking for places to tell their truth. And the fact that the first time that her truth was heard had to do with the mental health conversation.
And it went right to race. Right.
Was immense. I do believe she wanted people to know about the mental health component.
And that's great, but I have to say, and I love Meghan, and I appreciate her all through this interview and this podcast and this recap, but it's hard for me to match the naivete of, I thought we would go there, with how savvy she is and how much experience she's had.
I don't know. Trauma will do that to you.
Maybe.
It will do that to you. So, okay, we agreed to disagree.
Yes,
You're listening to Come Back with Erica Cobb. We are wrapping up episode 6 of the Harry and Meghan Netflix special. This is my recap with Tory Shulman. So the interview airs. We see them watching the interview. They feel good about it.
They do. They kiss.
And then we see Beyonce text Harry Gass and goes, Beyonce! which I thought was so funny.
So
and
cute. You should call her.
Yeah, she wants you. She wanted Meghan to feel safe and protected, and she told Meghan that she was selected to break generational curses that needed to be healed.
And what did Harry say? Well, that was well said.
Yeah, I mean, well, hello.
It's Beyonce.
Hello. And when you get the Tyler Perrys, you get the Oprahs, you get the Beyoncés, no one, it's like you've been inducted into this place where people start to, only these people understand each other.
The level you're at.
And
I agree.
exactly. So I thought that was amazing that's how that operates. And then Harry's
It's a different way of
grandfather-
operating, isn't it, from Britain?
Yes.
It's get together. Yeah, right.
Right. Well, especially
It's coordinated help.
And also, who did I say? Tyler Perry, Oprah, Beyonce,
God, they seem.
black people.
It seems like they have one thing in common.
black
people.
affluent, successful people.
They stood up.
taking care
Yeah.
of their own.
Yep. That was very clear. That was very
Like,
clear.
no, this
like,
will
come
not
into
happen.
my wing. Yeah,
right,
come
this
in.
will not happen on my watch.
That's
No,
right.
you will not be treated this way
That's right.
on my watch.
That's right.
And that's essentially what happens. And I'm proud that happened. So we fast forward that Prince Philip passes away, and Harry returns without Meghan to walk behind yet another casket.
coffin, yeah.
And Harry says he rehashed the same conversations with his father and brother and got absolutely nowhere. That had to have been incredibly difficult and awkward for Harry.
Yeah, especially without her. He does better when she's there.
Yeah.
And he had to go alone. That was also, you could feel their discomfort when they're apart.
Well, then Tyler Perry is asked to be Lily Beth's godfather.
Lilybeth?
But
Will you be the godfather?
he didn't want to, quote, go over there and do all of
those-
that.
He didn't want to do the whole christening and the Westminster Abbey and whatever. It is a lot. And she's like, no, we don't have to do all that. But
Yeah.
what a lovely, from a note, I say, never underestimate the note.
So as we're wrapping, I thought, there were so many moments. Serena Williams saying, friends can be family too.
Yeah, that was nice.
I also thought it was very important to see Princess Eugenie.
Eugenie. That is Fergie and Prince
Andrew.
Yeah, that's their daughter with Beatrice. Yes,
Yeah.
correct. And they're good friends. I thought it was lovely.
They went to Harry and Princess Eugenie went to the Super Bowl. And I was like, I'm so glad that he has someone in his corner. And also, it's very important because Princess Eugenie's father is Prince Andrew, who is obviously embattled in a huge scandal.
Epstein.
With Jeremy Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I think you saw them together as little kids and being, prey of the press pack, and the fact that they're still together and have that connection was huge. And
the future. They are the future of the monarchy.
Exactly.
In some ways.
And you see in 2021, the judge ruled in Meghan's favor against or for the mail, and they appealed, and Williams' team spoke out against Meghan, stating she knew that the letter could be leaked. So there's another layer to this, but eventually Meghan wins the appeal. There was a court-mandated mea culpa on the front page.
It was very small.
Yeah. And I love that they were wrapping it up with the first Archewell Holiday Party 2021, and the word of the year for Meghan was peace.
Yeah. She said, at first I picked truth at 1 year, and I wanted to give my truth. And that takes a bit of activism, doesn't it? A bit of fight. And peace has a sense of serenity to me. Truth takes a lot of, I fight the truth. And for right now, her word is sit back and have some peace.
Yeah.
And I thought that was lovely, yeah.
And I have to say, Tory Shulman, you were right about Ashley, the niece, that there was some unresolved
There were some issues
at that point.
I
At
just
that
felt
point
it.
in the story.
Correct. Because it has now been resolved.
Yes.
And she is in Archie's life and Lilybeth's life, and she is wonderful. But there was some hurt, which is natural and reasonable. And also, I wouldn't have not wanted to see some dirty parts of this. It would have felt too clean if there weren't parts of this that, hurt both of them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just it is a Kardashian episode. You know what I mean? I just appreciate that.
Yeah. And Meghan did text her.
Yeah.
And
she said, come meet my family.
And Harry's asked things that he misses about the royal family. And he said, we're family gatherings, the UK and friends. And he admits he lost a lot of friends in this transition. But we had a conversation a couple episodes back about the capacity, the occupancy at the next level of your life continues to get smaller and smaller. And I thought whoever he has in his circle at this point is likely who he's going to have in his circle for the rest of his life.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad I got to spend this time with you, my friend, in my circle.
I love you,
Wasn't
Tori.
that good?
Yes, it was
I
very
love you
good. So I also wanted to just end with these two things. Harry said that LA was potentially where his mother was going to live.
Yeah, well, if you didn't know, Dodie, the person she was in love with, he was in the film industry and was definitely going to be in LA. And he had produced Chariots of Fire, which had won an Oscar. So they were definitely going to go out there.
So the entire docuseries ends with Meghan reading the wedding speech where she describes their story as a modern love story.
Fairy tale,
and
yeah.
ends with that above all, love wins. And above all, we want you to win. So thank you for listening to Come Back with Erica Cobb, the recap of the Netflix Harry and Meghan docuseries. Tory Shulman, it has been an honor and a privilege to have you join me. And I hope you all enjoyed this. Please give a review, give a rating.
Follow Tory.
Also, follow Tory. Where do you follow, girl?
I am Tory Shulman. Like, I need help. I need more.
SHULMAN. And I am at Erica Cobb. That's Erica like America, Cobb, COBB. And as always, you can get the full podcast and the entire docuseries recap on comeback.tv/podcast. Thanks for listening.
Cheerio.
Cheerio.